I was 24 years old when my mother looked me dead in the eye and said, "You owe me for every breath you've taken in this house." I stood there in my tiny apartment doorway, groceries in hand, staring at the woman who gave birth to me. She wasn't here for a hug. She wasn't here to check on me. She was here with her hand out, literally. Palm up, expecting money. "Mom, what are you talking about?" "Rent, sweetie, back rent. For all those years you lived under my roof. I've been doing the math." She pulled out her phone, scrolling through what looked like a spreadsheet. 18 years of housing, food, utilities. You're looking at about $63,000. My stomach dropped. She smiled, that thin, calculated smile I'd seen her use on salespeople and ex-boyfriends. "I'm being generous." I rounded down. Behind her stood Derek, her newest husband. Number 4. He wouldn't look at me, just stared at his shoes like a guilty dog. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm dead serious, honey. You think raising you was free? I sacrificed everything for you. Now it's time you paid me back." She stepped closer, her perfume suffocating. "Unless you want me to take legal action. I've already spoken to a lawyer." My hands trembled. The grocery bag slipped slightly. "You have 30 days, she said, turning on her heel. "Or I'm filing." I watched her walk away, Derek trailing behind like a shadow. My heart pounded so hard I thought my chest would crack open. 30 days to pay for my own childhood. The door closed. And that's when I realized this wasn't about money at all. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my worn-out couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of my childhood. Every birthday she forgot. Every school event she missed because she was too busy. Every time she introduced me as the accident that ruined my 20s. But this was a new low. The next morning, I got a text. From her. "Don't think I'm bluffing. Lawyer's name is Richard Moss. Look him up. He specializes in family debt recovery. Clock's ticking, sweetheart." I threw my phone across the room. 2 weeks later, she showed up again. This time at my workplace. I was a junior graphic designer at a small agency downtown, barely making enough to cover my rent and student loans. She walked right past reception like she owned the place, heels clicking against the marble floor. My boss, Catherine, looked up from her desk. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see my daughter." Mom's voice was syrup sweet, the kind that made my skin crawl. I stood up from my cubicle, face burning. "Mom, you can't just... We need to talk. Now." She glanced around at my coworkers, all pretending not to stare. "Unless you want to discuss your debt in front of everyone?" Catherine's eyebrows shot up. I grabbed my jacket. "Let's go outside." We stood on the sidewalk, traffic roaring past us. She lit a cigarette, blowing smoke in my direction. "So, do you have my money?" "I don't have $63,000, Mom. I can barely afford groceries." She laughed. Cold. Sharp. "Then I guess we're going to court. Richard says we have a strong case. Parental reimbursement claims are becoming more common, you know." "This is insane!" "What's insane is an ungrateful daughter who thinks she can just walk away from her obligations." She flicked ash onto the pavement. "I gave you everything. You gave me nothing but trauma, but I didn't say that." I just stood there shaking. She checked her watch. "Tick-tock, baby girl. 2 weeks left." Then she was gone again, leaving me standing there like a ghost. That's when I knew I had to do something drastic. My mother's name is Diane. Diane Porter Sullivan Martinez Cooper. 4 last names. 4 marriages. 4 men she bled dry before moving on to the next. I should have seen this coming. Growing up, she always had a new scheme. A new angle. When I was 12, she tried to sue my school because I didn't make the cheerleading squad. Said it damaged my future prospects. When I was 16, she convinced my grandmother to change her will, cutting out my uncle entirely. By the time Grandma died, Mom had somehow gotten the house, the savings, everything. My uncle didn't speak to us again. Now I was her target. The 3rd week, she escalated. She posted on Facebook a long, heartbreaking post about how she'd sacrificed everything to raise me alone, how she'd worked 3 jobs to keep me fed, how I'd abandoned her the moment I turned 18. None of it was true. She'd had one part-time job at a salon. My grandmother paid for most of my expenses. And I didn't abandon her, I escaped. But her friends ate it up. Comments flooded in. What an ungrateful daughter. Sue her. You deserve better, Diane. My phone exploded with messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Cousins, aunts, even my dad's sister, who I barely knew. Is it true you won't pay your mother back? How could you do this to her? She raised you by herself. I wanted to scream, to tell them all the truth. But what was the point? Diane was a master manipulator. She always had been. She could cry on command, play the victim like an Oscar-winning actress. And Derek? He was just another prop in her performance. I called him one night, desperate. Derek, please. You know this is wrong. Talk to her. Silence. Derek? I can't, sweetheart. You don't understand what she's like when she doesn't get what she wants. His voice cracked. Just pay her, please. It'll be easier for everyone. He was terrified of her. I hung up. That's when I realized I was completely alone in this. No one was going to save me. No one was going to stand up to her. Except maybe me. But how do you fight someone who's spent your entire life teaching you that you're worthless? She filed the lawsuit. I got the papers on a Thursday morning, hand-delivered by a process server who looked almost apologetic. Diane Porter versus Emma Chen, parental reimbursement claim. $63,000, plus legal fees, plus emotional damages for my abandonment and ingratitude. I sat on my kitchen floor and cried for 2 hours. But Diane wasn't done. Not even close. She organized a family intervention at my grandmother's favorite restaurant, the place where we used to celebrate birthdays, where Grandma would sneak me extra dessert when Mom wasn't looking. Now it was a trap. I walked in and saw them all sitting there. My Aunt Carol, my Uncle Jim, who hadn't spoken to us in years but apparently made an exception for this, my cousins, Derek, and Diane, sitting at the head of the table like a queen holding court. Emma, you came! Mom stood up, arms open like she expected a hug. I froze in the doorway. What is this? We're worried about you, honey. We all are. She gestured to the table. Sit, please. I should have left. But my legs moved anyway. I sat down at the far end, as far from her as possible. Aunt Carol spoke first. Emma, sweetie, your mother says you've been refusing to help her financially, after everything she's done for you. That's not— Let me finish. Carol's voice was sharp. She raised you alone. No help from your father. No help from anyone. And now she's struggling and you won't even— She's suing me for $63,000. My voice cracked. For raising me. Her own daughter. Uncle Jim shook his head. That's not how she tells it. Of course it's not. Diane dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. Fake tears. Perfect timing. I just wanted my daughter back. I thought maybe if she understood what I sacrificed, she'd care. Her voice broke beautifully. Derek put his arm around her. The other relatives murmured sympathetically. I looked around the table. At their faces. Their judgment. Their pity for her. No one believed me. No one even questioned her story. You're all insane, I whispered. Don't you dare speak to your mother like that. Uncle Jim slammed his fist on the table. The restaurant went quiet. Other diners turned to stare. I stood up, chair scraping loudly. My whole body shook. I'm done. Emma, wait. Diane reached for me, her face a mask of false concern. I yanked my arm away. Don't touch me. I walked out. Past the staring customers. Past the waiter who'd served my family for years. Out into the cold night air where I finally felt like I could breathe again. But the damage was done. The whole family thought I was the villain now. And Diane? She was just getting started. The weeks that followed were the loneliest of my life. My phone went silent. No calls, no texts. The family group chat that used to ping constantly with birthday reminders and memes went dead. I'd been removed. At work, I couldn't focus. Catherine pulled me aside one afternoon. Emma, is everything okay? You seem distant. I wanted to tell her everything. But how do you explain that your own mother is suing you for being born? Just family stuff. I'll be fine. She didn't look convinced, but she let it go. I started eating lunch alone in my car. Started avoiding places where I might run into people I knew. My apartment became a prison. 4 walls and silence. I'd scroll through old photos sometimes. Me and Mom at the beach when I was 7. Her smiling, arm around me. Had she loved me then? Or was I already just an investment to her? Something she could cash in later? The court date was set for 6 weeks away. My lawyer, a tired-looking public defender named Marcus Webb, told me the truth over coffee. Emma, I'm not going to lie to you. These cases are tricky. Parental reimbursement isn't common, but it's not impossible either. If she can prove she went into debt raising you, if she has documentation, she's lying. I believe you. But belief doesn't win cases. Evidence does. He slid a folder across the table. We need records. Bank statements. Anything proving your grandmother supported you. Anything showing she's lying about those 3 jobs. I had nothing. Grandma was gone. Her records were probably destroyed. And Mom? She'd had years to prepare her story. I was going to lose. I sat in my apartment that night, lights off, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You okay, kid? I stared at it. Who was this? This is Henry, your grandmother's neighbor. I heard what's happening. We need to talk. Henry. I remembered him vaguely. An older man who lived next door to Grandma. Always working in his garden. Always waving when we visited. Why would he contact me now? How did you get my number? Your grandmother gave it to me. Years ago. Made me promise something. Said if Diane ever came after you, I should reach out. My heart stopped. What did she make you promise? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Meet me tomorrow. 2 p.m. Rosewood Cemetery. Your grandmother's grave. Come alone. Don't tell anyone, especially not your mother. Then nothing. I sat there in the dark, phone glowing in my hand. Grandma had known? She'd known Mom would do this? For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. I felt hope. Rosewood Cemetery was quiet. Too quiet. I walked through the rows of headstones, fallen leaves crunching under my feet. November wind cut through my jacket. I hadn't been here since the funeral 2 years ago. Grandma's grave sat under an oak tree. Fresh flowers lay against the stone. Someone had been here recently. Emma. I spun around. Henry stood a few feet away, holding a worn leather briefcase. He looked older than I remembered. White hair, deep wrinkles but sharp eyes, alert. Henry, what's this about? He glanced around, making sure we were alone. Your grandmother knew what Diane was. She knew better than anyone. He set the briefcase on a nearby bench. 3 months before she died, she came to me. Said she needed to protect you. Said Diane would come for you eventually. She said that? Word for word. He opened the briefcase. Inside were folders, documents, photos. Your grandmother kept everything, Emma. Every receipt. Every bank statement. Every lie Diane ever told. My hands trembled as I reached for the first folder. Diane didn't work 3 jobs. She barely worked one. Your grandmother paid for your school clothes, your field trips, your lunches, everything. Henry pulled out a bank statement. Highlighted lines showed monthly transfers. Thousands of dollars. For years. She has the documentation to prove Diane's claims are fraudulent. Why didn't Grandma say something? She tried. But Diane threatened her. Said she'd cut off contact with you. Your grandmother couldn't risk that. So she documented everything instead. Waited. He pulled out another folder. Thicker. This is the important one. Inside were property records. Legal documents, a deed. Your grandmother's house. The one Diane claimed she inherited? Henry's voice dropped. She didn't. Your grandmother left it to you. In a trust. Diane forged documents to take it. Sold it 8 months after the funeral. Pocketed $400,000. I couldn't breathe. She committed fraud, Emma. Real, prosecutable fraud. Your grandmother suspected she'd try something like this, so she made copies of everything. The real will. The trust documents. All of it. Tears streamed down my face. Grandma knew. She knew and she protected me. She loved you more than anything. Henry squeezed my shoulder. And now you have everything you need to fight back. Not just defend yourself. Destroy her case entirely. Maybe even press charges. I looked down at the documents, at proof, at ammunition. There's a lawyer, friend of your grandmother's. Her name's Patricia Vance. She's been waiting for you to call. He handed me a business card. I stared at Grandma's grave. At the flowers? At the woman who saved me even after death. Thank you, I whispered. Henry nodded. Make her proud, kid. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. The war wasn't over. But now I had weapons. Patricia Vance's office was everything my public defender's wasn't. Glass walls, mahogany desk, confidence radiating from every surface. She reviewed the documents Henry gave me, her expression never changing. After 20 minutes, she looked up. Your mother's going to prison. The words hung in the air. What? Forgery, fraud, theft. She stole your inheritance and covered it up with falsified documents. That's not a civil matter, Emma. That's criminal. Patricia closed the folder. But first we destroy her lawsuit. Then we go after her. 2 days later we had a hearing. Pre-trial conference. Just lawyers, the judge, and the parties involved. I sat next to Patricia. Across from us sat Diane and her lawyer, Richard Moss. A sleazy-looking man with too much gel in his hair. Diane smiled at me. That same calculated smile. Like she'd already won. Judge Morrison reviewed the case files. Ms. Porter, you're claiming parental reimbursement for raising your daughter. $63,000 plus damages. That's correct, Your Honor. I sacrificed everything. Patricia stood. Your Honor, if I may. We have evidence that directly contradicts Ms. Porter's claims. Richard scoffed. More delaying tactics. Bank statements showing that the plaintiff's mother, not the plaintiff herself, paid for the defendant's expenses throughout childhood. Patricia slid documents across the table. Receipts, transfers, all documented. Diane's smile faltered. The judge examined the papers. These appear legitimate. They are, Your Honor, but that's not all. Patricia pulled out another folder. We also have evidence that Ms. Porter committed fraud after her mother's death. She forged probate documents to steal a property worth $400,000 that was legally left to her daughter in a trust. The room went silent. Richard's face went pale. We weren't aware of any. Of course you weren't, because your client lied to you. Patricia's voice was ice. The original will, the trust documents, and proof of forgery are all here. Notarized, certified. Diane stood up, chair scraping. This is ridiculous. That house was mine. My mother promised. Sit down, Ms. Porter. Judge Morrison's voice cracked like a whip. Diane sat, but her hands shook. I watched her. Really watched her. For the first time, she looked small, scared. The judge turned to Richard. Counselor, I suggest you have a serious conversation with your client. If these allegations are true, she's facing criminal charges. Your Honor, I need time to review. You have 24 hours to withdraw this lawsuit, or I'm referring this to the Days office. Diane grabbed Richard's arm. Do something! He pulled away from her. I can't defend fraud, Diane. If what they're saying is true. He gathered his papers. I'm withdrawing as your counsel. Effective immediately. Her face crumbled. Richard, wait. He was already walking out. Diane sat alone at the table. No lawyer. No Derek. Just her and the wreckage of her lies. Judge Morrison stood. We'll reconvene in 24 hours. Ms. Porter, I strongly suggest you get legal counsel. And perhaps a criminal defense attorney. The judge left. Patricia packed her briefcase. I'll file the counterclaim tomorrow. Fraud, theft, emotional distress. We're going after everything. I nodded, but I couldn't take my eyes off my mother. She sat there, staring at nothing. Her hands trembled. For a moment, she looked old, fragile. Patricia left. The room emptied. It was just us. Emma, don't. My voice was cold. Don't say my name like you care. I'm your mother. You're a thief. I stood, gathering my things. You stole from me. You lied about Grandma. You tried to destroy me for money. Her eyes filled with tears. Real ones this time. I needed it. Derek's business failed. We're drowning in debt. I didn't know what else to do. So you sued your own daughter? She flinched. I thought you'd just pay. I didn't think you'd fight back. Because you raised me to be weak. To believe I was nothing, I leaned forward. But Grandma knew. She knew what you were. And she made sure I'd be protected. Diane's face crumpled. She always loved you more. Because she actually loved me. I grabbed my bag. You just saw dollar signs. Wait. She reached into her purse, pulled out an envelope. Before you go, you need to see this. I hesitated. Please? I took the envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten, old. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Grandma's. She left it with me. Years ago. Made me promise to give it to you if this day ever came. Diane's voice broke. I should have given it to you at the funeral. But I couldn't, because I knew what it said. My hand shook as I unfolded the letter. My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, Diane has done something terrible. I read the words through tears, and everything changed. The letter said everything. Grandma knew Diane would come for me. She knew about the debts, the schemes, the pattern. But there was more. Something I never knew. Diane wasn't my biological mother. My real mother died in childbirth. Diane was my aunt. She took me in, but only because Grandma paid her. Every month. For 18 years. You got paid to raise me? My voice shook. Diane couldn't look at me. Your grandmother insisted. She said if I took you, she'd support us. Both of us. And you still want more? She said nothing. The courtroom filled the next day. Patricia filed everything. Criminal complaints. Civil suit. The DA's office sent a prosecutor. Word had spread. The family showed up. Aunt Carol, Uncle Jim, the cousins, all sitting on Diane's side. Until Patricia presented the evidence. Bank statements projected on a screen. Forged signatures. The real will versus the fake one. $400,000 stolen. Aunt Carol gasped. Uncle Jim's face went red. The prosecutor stood. Ms. Porter, you're being charged with fraud, forgery, and theft. You have the right to remain silent. I'll pay it back. Diane screamed. Emma, please! I'll pay everything back. You can't pay back 18 years of lies. The judge banged the gavel. Order! Derek sat in the back, head in his hands. He'd filed for divorce that morning. Cleaned out their joint account and disappeared. Karma worked fast. Patricia leaned over. The DA's offering a deal. She pleads guilty, pays restitution, serves 2 years. Otherwise trial. She could get 10. I looked at Diane. At the woman who pretended to be my mother. Who cashed checks while making me feel worthless. Aunt Carol approached me during recess. Emma, I'm so sorry. We didn't know. We should have listened. You should have. Uncle Jim hung back, shame written on his face. The judge returned. Ms. Porter, how do you plead? Diane stood, broken, defeated. Guilty, Your Honor. The gavel fell. Justice wasn't just served. It was delivered with receipts. 6 months later, I stood in front of a house. Not just any house. Grandma's house. Patricia got it back. Forced the sale to be reversed. The buyers were surprisingly understanding when they learned it was stolen property. Insurance covered their losses. Now it was mine. Legally. Finally. I walked through the rooms, memories flooding back. The kitchen where Grandma taught me to bake. The living room where we watched old movies. Her bedroom, still smelling faintly of lavender. In the closet, I found a box. My name written on top in her handwriting. Inside were photos. Me as a baby. My real mother holding me hours before she died. Letters she'd written to me that I'd never received. And a videotape. I found an old player in the attic. Plugged it in. Grandma's face filled the screen. Hello, my darling Emma. If you're watching this, you've survived Diane. I'm so proud of you. She smiled, that warm smile I missed so much. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you the truth while I was alive. I'm sorry I let her pretend. But I had to keep you close. Had to make sure you were safe. Tears streamed down my face. Your mother, my daughter Sarah, loved you more than life itself. She'd be so proud of the woman you've become. Strong, Brave. Everything Diane tried to break but couldn't. She leaned closer to the camera. This house is yours. The trust fund I left is yours. It's enough to finish school, start your life, be free, and Emma? Don't let Diane's poison convince you that you're not worthy of love. You are. You always were. The screen went black. I sat there in the empty living room, crying and laughing at the same time. My phone buzzed. A message from Patricia. Diane's parole hearing is in 3 years. They want to know if you'll attend. I typed back, no, I'm done looking backward. I had a house. A future. A truth that finally made sense. Diane wanted rent? I gave her something better. I gave her consequences. And me? I gave myself freedom. The door closed on that chapter of my life. And I never looked back.